Part 71. Shui Chen gave advice on a happy marriage. This forced Mo Yan to a dead end. Yi Yang learned that Shu Tianzi went to the imperial garden today, and he wanted to laugh a little. He was in a good mood. He was sure to make more delicious treats to treat himself tonight. After a busy afternoon, he sat at the dining table and looked at a table of delicious food. Suddenly, Zhen Yi came to him. He hurriedly put down his chopsticks and was about to get up to greet him. Zhen Yi waved his hand, indicating that he didn't need to salute. He sat at the dining table, looking at a table of good dishes, and asked, "You made it all?" "I have nothing to do, just messing around." Yi Yang looked humble. "I heard that you have been cooking and inventing new things yourself in order to please concubine Tianzi in the past few days. Tell me, what bad idea did you have?" Zhen Yi seemed to say casually. But there was a hint of that in his tone. The taste cannot be concealed. Cough cough. Yi Yang choked on the saliva and looked at Zhen Yi with a look of horror. "What are you thinking about all day long?" If he hadn't owed concubine Tianzi a favor before, he would have had to think of tricks to please each other. Zhen Yi looked a little unhappy and asked, "Isn't it? Concubine Tianzi has it, why don't I have it?" What he has heard the most recently is what delicious food Yi Yang gave to concubine Tianzi, and what about him? He waits left, waits right, waits for nothing. The most irritating thing is that in the past few days, he has been busy with trivial matters in Nomadic City. And he has transferred Mo Yan and several other generals back to prepare for the promotion of officials and titles, and to hold a celebration banquet by the way. But what about Yi Yang? Not only did he not send someone over to ask if he wanted help, but instead, he courted his concubine in his harem, which was literally forcing him to vomit blood. Yi Yang blinked his eyes, stunned for a while before replying speechlessly, "Your Majesty, how dare I give you something to eat?" In case someone framed him and added ingredients to his dishes, even if he had two mouths, he would be fine. "Can't explain it. I see that you didn't take me to heart at all." After Zhen Yi said this, he was stunned for a moment. And the tingling feeling in his heart made him feel a little uncomfortable. "Your Majesty, wrong." Yi Yang shouted, "Wrong, how dare he? Don't complain. If you put me in your heart, you will bring things to me yourself, instead of letting me find time to come out to find you." Recently, he has reviewed the memorials almost every night before resting until night. And sometimes he really thinks he chatted with Yi Yang for a while to relieve his annoyance, but when he thought that Yi Yang had already slept and didn't want to disturb Yi Yang's rest, he endured it. Who would have thought that Yi Yang would curry favor with other men under his nose? The more he thought about it, the more angry he became. Seeing that Zhen Yi's expression became more and more gloomy, Yi Yang immediately changed the subject. Who dared not continue to challenge Zhen Yi's bottom line? "Your Majesty, eat buns. I made them myself." Saying that, he put a small and exquisite bun in his bowl, and then handed it to Zhen Yi with a flat face. "What is this?" Zhen Yi looked down at the small and exquisite bun in front of him, only to feel that the shape was weird, something he had never seen before. "Your Majesty, this is a steamed dumpling made of wheat flour. I hope the emperor will not dislike it." No wonder Yi Yang wanted to add the last sentence, "It is really this dynasty. The status of wheat flour is too low. Because the rich people never eat wheat flour, so wheat flour was once a food that could not be used on the table." Made of wheat flour? Zhen Yi picked up the steamed dumpling with chopsticks and looked left and right. The shape was cute, in sharp contrast to the wheat flour he knew. He opened his mouth and took a bite of the steamed dumpling. The soft skin and the tender meat filling were delicious. It was the first time he had eaten such novel and delicious food when he grew up, which made his appetite widen. Yes, don't look at the cheap price of wheat flour, but wheat flour has a huge effect. It can not only make steamed buns and dumplings, but also noodles. It can be really dazzling. Yi Yang blew the wheat flour into the sky. Junyi's focus is on. Which dumpling is that? After Junyi finished eating a dumpling, he looked at the table full of food. Looking for so-called dumplings. Yi Yang quickly picked up his chopsticks and put a dumpling in front of him in Junyi's bowl. Junyi quickly took a bite of dumplings, which tasted better than steamed buns. He couldn't help but praise Yi Yang's cooking skills. Then, he looked at the table full of delicacies. Where's the noodles? Yes, eat it all back. Noodles are easy to mess up, I didn't make them. Where's the milk tea? So, is the emperor here to eat and drink tonight? There was a large table of dishes on the table, and in the end, most of them went into Junyi's stomach. He had never eaten these fresh foods, and he was exhausted for the first time. This frightened eunuch Yun, who was serving on the side. You must know that the emperor could not eat more than 3 mouthfuls of the same dish to prevent poisoning. But tonight, let's not say 3 mouthfuls of each dish. There are more than 10 mouthfuls. Eunuch Yun dissuaded him a few times, but every time he got a cold eye knife. Seeing that the emperor's expression was getting worse and worse, he didn't dare to say anything, and silently stood aside as if he didn't see it. And after Junyi had eaten and drank enough, he was holding Yi Yang, tossing and venting all the energy accumulated in the past few days on Yi Yang. Yi Yang is that depressed. He should have known Junyi that he should not have eaten too much. The time passed in a flash, and half a month later, there was another celebration banquet in the palace. For this celebration banquet, only people with the position of concubine or above in the harem can participate. As one of the invited people, Yi Yang drank wine comfortably while looking at the graceful beauties on the dance floor. The days were so happy. Junyi on the throne saw that Yi Yang had been staring at the beauties on the dance floor, gritted his teeth angrily. Especially when he saw Yi Yang's bright smile. He only felt that the smile was like a sharp weapon, stabbing his heart. At this moment, he realized that even if he hugged Yi Yang, he couldn't change Yi Yang's liking for women. Yi Yang didn't know that Junyi had been paying attention to his words and deeds. After he had admired enough the graceful figures of the beauties, he then focused on the officials in the hall. Because it was a celebration feast, there were only a few high-ranking officials in the court, and the others were all military generals who made great achievements in the nomadic war. He looked at Shui Chen not far away, and saw that he always looked at Mo Yan in the distance, intentionally or not, and sighed. Shui Chen and Mo Yan. This is the first time he has seen a love that is not mixed with any selfish desire. He knew that he would not be able to pursue true love in his life. So he was very envious of the love between Shui Chen and Mo Yan. The graceful dancers on the dance floor finally finished dancing. After they left, Shui Chen stood up, instantly attracting the attention of everyone present. It's really that Shui Chen's appearance is too eye-catching. As soon as he stood up, he immediately caught everyone's attention. Everyone looked at Shui Chen suspiciously, wondering what he was going to do. Shui Chen ignored everyone's gaze, turned to face Junyi, and said respectfully, "Your Majesty. General Mo has been fighting in the south and the north all the year round, serving the country all his life, and doing his best for the country. He is a role model for our generation." Shui Chen was clearly praising Mo Yan, but for some reason, Yi Yang always felt that something was wrong. Especially Mo Yan. He was not happy when he heard this, but his heart sank, which made him a little flustered. Junyi nodded, agreeing with Shui Chen's words. Mo Yan not only has strong military ability, but is also loyal to the Holy Dynasty. Before, he always thought that Mo Yan, who had a lot of troops in his hands, would rebel. Who would have known that among so many generals, He was the only one who didn't have a second heart. But the sentence, however, made everyone stunned. Yi Yang thought, come, I will say why it was weird before, so there are buts. Mo Yan was even more panicked. He didn't know what Shui Chen wanted to do. Everyone in the hall was full of energy and wanted to know what Shui Chen would say next. Shui Chen glanced at Mo Yan, whose expression changed slightly, hesitant, but then turned to see old General Mo beside Mo Yan. He finally calmed down and said, one can't be alone forever. General Mo is not old now. It's not too young, and it's time to start a family, so the concubine hopes that the emperor will give General Mo a happy marriage. Okay. This is a good suggestion. Lieutenant General Lu loudly agreed. Yeah, General Mo is also quite old, it's time to get married. General Mo, if you don't dislike it, it would be nice for my little girl to marry you. A minister began to shout to Mo Yan. General Mo, do you like men or women? My son is not bad. Why don't you take one as a concubine? Some people want to flatter Mo Yan, but their daughters are married, and now there are only 2 concubines, so he hopes Mo Yan can like men. Mo Yan's expression didn't change. He just quietly looked at Shui Chen, who gave advice, and didn't say a word during the period, and he didn't know whether he was happy or unhappy. Yi Yang was also shocked. Shui Chen knew that Mo Yan liked him, but he actually asked the emperor to give Mo Yan a marriage in front of Mo Yan. This is completely murderous. Zhen Yi didn't know the love and hatred between the two. He agreed with Shui Chen's proposal very much, and began to think about how many of his sisters were still unmarried. If there is a suitable one, he doesn't mind marrying his sister to Mo Yan. After all, Mo Yan is young and promising, and is a good candidate for consort. Most importantly, he can also use the method of marriage to stabilize Mo Yan's loyalty. Just as Zhen Yi was about to offer his marriage, Mo Yan suddenly stood up and looked at Shui Chen with a hint of anger. Thank you for your kindness, but I already have a heart for my love. Extremely heavy, strongly expressing their inner dissatisfaction. Why force him to marry? He once swore that he would only marry Shui Chen in this life, and would only be loyal to Shui Chen. But why did Shui Chen always force him to a dead end? Zhen Yi looked at Mo Yan, who had a slightly gloomy expression, and Shui Chen, who looked calm. The two were obviously normal, but he smelled something unusual. He ignored the strange thoughts that had arisen in his heart, and said sternly, "Who is General Mo's favorite person? If it is from his own country, I will give you a marriage proposal." Although Mo Yan was dissatisfied with Shui Chen's presumptuous proposition, he did not dare to face Zhen Yi. Putting on airs, he bowed his hands and replied respectfully, "Back to the emperor, the person whom this minister likes, has already married." Zhen Yi was speechless. He also thought that the person Mo Yan liked was unmarried and planned to be an adult, so he gave this marriage and made Mo Yan grateful to him for the rest of his life. But he knew that the person Mo Yan liked was already married. General Mo, since the person you like is already married, why don't you find another marriage? Shui Chen continued to make up for it. This will not bother the imperial concubine's heart. Although Mo Yan's voice was not loud, everyone in the hall could hear the anger implied in Mo Yan's tone. Shui Chen bit his lip lightly, and finally said to Zhen Yi, "Your Majesty, my concubine's cousin Hua Banshui is sensible, gentle, virtuous and considerate. If General Mo marries that girl Banshui, she will live happily ever after." Banshui has admired General Mo since she was a child, and if the two get married, they will definitely write a good story. Mo Yan never thought that Shui Chen would be so cruel. He cut open his heart mercilessly, then sprinkled it with salt and ravaged it ruthlessly. He wants to yell, "How can you be so ruthless? Why do you have to disgust me with Hua Banshui?" The chest was so tight that it hurt, The blood in my heart was surging, the throat was sweet, and a mouthful of blood spit out. Everyone looked at Mo Yan, who was vomiting blood. And they all froze in place. General Mo. Lieutenant General Lu saw Mo Yan vomiting blood, and was so frightened that he quickly jumped up from his seat and supported his crumbling body. Old General Mo was also frightened by Mo Yan, and asked with a trembling voice, "My son, why are you so troubled? Hurry up and tell the imperial doctor." Although Jun Yi was a little stunned, he was still calm, so he quickly called someone to ask for the imperial doctor. Yi Yang glanced at Shui Chen, who had lost all his blood. He squeezed into Mo Yan, who was surrounded by everyone, and looked at the pained Mo Yan. He wanted to help, but was powerless. At this moment, Mo Yan has long lost his high spirits. He was pale, and even his lips were slightly pale. He was weak. And he looked very weak, especially the blood oozing from his chest, which scared the people around him. Live exclaimed, "Yeah, it's bleeding." A concubine pointed at Mo Yan's chest and exclaimed. When they heard the bleeding, they all turned their eyes to Mo Yan's chest. When they saw the bright red blood seeping out of Mo Yan's chest, they were all frightened. Jun Yi came over and saw that Mo Yan was still injured, and asked Lieutenant General Lu, who was supporting Mo Yan, "Lieutenant General Lu, what's going on?" "It's okay. It's just a minor injury." On his chest, he knelt down and said, "Your Majesty, this minister is in a bad condition. Please allow Your Majesty to allow the minister to go home and rest." Jun Yi saw Mo Yan's expression turning pale and couldn't bear to ask anymore, nodded and said, "Okay, Lieutenant General Lu. I'll trouble you to send General Mo, go back to the mansion to rest." "I will obey the order." Lieutenant General Lu bowed and left with the trembling Mo Yan. Shui Chen kept watching Mo Yan's figure disappear into the hall. Suddenly, his legs became weak, and he almost fell. Fortunately, Yuan Shou quickly supported him, which saved him from the embarrassing situation of falling to the ground. Jun Yi turned his head and happened to see Shui Chen, who almost fell, and he vaguely guessed something. This celebration banquet ended quietly because of Mo Yan's unexpected situation, and everyone went back to their respective homes with little interest. Shui Chen, who returned to Shui Chen Palace, was about to repel everyone, and wanted to be alone, when he suddenly heard Eunuch Yun's unique announcement, "The Emperor is here." Shui Chen was stunned for a moment, and he hurriedly covered his face. With a sad expression, he went out to meet Jun Yi's arrival. "Minister Concubine, meet the Emperor. Long live the Emperor, long live." Shui Chen knelt on the ground. His voice did not fluctuate, he could not tell whether he was sad or happy. "Get up." Jun Yi walked towards the main hall of Shui Chen Palace, followed by Shui Chen, who stood up and quickly followed behind Jun Yi and walked into the main hall. Jun Yi sat on the first seat, glanced at the eunuchs behind Shui Chen, and said indifferently, "You all go out." Several eunuchs glanced at Shui Chen with a worried look, and then exited the main hall. Seeing Shui Chen standing there, Jun Yi said, "Sit down. Could it be that the Emperor has discovered the secret that I have buried in my heart?" This conjecture scared his heart to pounding wildly. And it sounded extraordinarily loud in this quiet room, as if his whole heart was about to jump out of his chest. He was afraid that he would be implicated in Mo Yan. He raised his eyes and glanced quietly at Jun Yi, who looked as usual. He was not sure what Jun Yi was thinking at this time. He slowly moved to the stool and sat down. He tried hard to maintain the smile on his face, and asked cautiously, "I wonder if the Emperor is so late, what's the matter with this concubine?" Jun Yi looked at Shui Chen with a half-smile, and asked, "What else can you say?" Shui Chen froze for a moment, and pretended to be confused and replied, "I don't know." playing stupid? The smile on Junyi's face became more obvious. He slowly said, Imperial concubine, you have been in the palace for 10 years. After so many years, should you also perform your duties as a concubine? Shui Chen's heart froze. It seems that Junyi has discovered his secret, otherwise Junyi, who has always disliked him for being boring, would not have said this to him. It's not that Junyi really dislikes him for being boring, but that he has always been arrogant and never likes to force others. After all, he likes consensual things in that respect. Therefore, when Shui Chen was unwilling, he never forced Shui Chen. There were 2 reasons why Shui Chen was allowed to sit on the position of imperial concubine. First, Shui Chen is good at management. So he can rest assured that the West Palace will be taken care of by Shui Chen. Second, Shui Chen knows how to analyze the situation in the world and the situation in the court in China. Whenever he has a problem that cannot be solved, he is used to asking Shui Chen for guidance. After all, Shui Chen, as a bystander, naturally sees things more clearly than the authorities. Before Yi Yang, he was always used to thinking of Shui Chen. In his eyes, Shui Chen was not his concubine, but a competent advisor. Therefore, when he learned today that Shui Chen has someone he likes, he is not angry, but a playful heart arose. Because he never thought that Shui Chen, who was cold by nature, would also like others. Shui Chen sat stiffly on the stool. Hesitating for a long time to protect Mo Yan, he slowly stood up, stretched out his hand and started to unbutton his clothes. Junyi looked at Shui Chen, who was unbuttoning his clothes with a stunned expression, and said in shock, "What are you doing? You're sick." The person who took the initiative to ask Shui Chen to sleep in the bed was frightened, and even said Yi Yang's classic curse words. He looked at Shui Chen, who was still unbuttoning his clothes, and hurriedly stood up, thinking to escape from the Shui Chen palace. At this moment, eunuch Yun, who was outside the door, suddenly said, "Your Majesty, young Master Yi asks to see you." Hearing the 4 words of young Master Yi, it was as if Junyi, who had found the savior, dropped a sentence, "I still have something to do." Then, hastily escaped from the Shui Chen palace. Shui Chen looked at the hurriedly leaving back, and couldn't figure out why Junyi came tonight. Yi Yang, who was standing outside the Shui Chen palace, had a tangled face. He doesn't know what he's struggling with. It stands to reason that he should be happy that the emperor went to Shui Chen. At least the emperor did not find him to toss alone. However, when he knew that the emperor had gone to the Shui Chen palace, he felt so uncomfortable that he felt like a big stone was pressing down on him. And he was so uncomfortable that he could hardly breathe. The image of the emperor and Shui Chen together always appeared in his mind, and when he thought of the love between the two, he felt so uncomfortable that he wanted to beat his chest. Especially when he came back to his senses, he had already arrived at Shui Chen Palace. Just as he was about to turn around and escape from the Shui Chen Palace, Junyi's figure appeared at the front door, which made him happy. "Emperor." Maybe he didn't even know it, but his voice, the emperor, was filled with joy that could not be ignored. Junyi stepped forward, looked down at the joy in Yi Yang's eyes, and the smile in his eyes reached the bottom of his eyes. It seems that Yi Yang, who looks obsessed with women, likes himself a little in his heart. Thinking that his efforts had finally paid off a little, he held Yi Yang's hand tightly, unwilling to let go. "Your Majesty, what did you and the imperial concubine talk about?" Yi Yang asked seemingly casually. He was actually very entangled in his heart. He didn't know if he was worried about Shui Chen and Mo Yan, or was he worried that Junyi cared about Shui Chen. Junyi felt that Shui Chen had someone he liked that was dishonorable. So he didn't tell Yi Yang the truth, but said something else, just talking about General Mo. Just now I heard Yun Qing's report that General Mo was on his way back. They were ambushed by a killer and were injured. General Mo was afraid that I was worried and did not inform them that they were ambushed by a killer on the way. In order not to delay the time to return to the Holy City, General Mo rushed to the road despite his injuries. He did not rest well on the way, which led to the deterioration of his condition. That's why he vomited blood in the hall. Shit, wasn't Shui Chen so angry that he vomited blood? Yi Yang could only complain silently in his heart, and did not dare to say it. Because he knew that if Zheng Yi knew that Shui Chen loved others, Zheng Yi, as the emperor, would definitely not let them go. After all, no one would like his wife to think of others. If Zheng Yi was more generous, at most, the two would not be allowed to meet again. If Zheng Yi was stingy, Mo Yan might be framed to death by Zheng Yi secretly. By the way, what are you doing with me? Wouldn't he really just come over and ask what he and Shui Chen had talked about? These words made Yi Yang stunned. Yes, what did he do with Zheng Yi? Feeling that the people beside him have been keeping their eyes on him, and he didn't want to admit that he didn't want Zheng Yi to find someone else, he weakly replied, I just want to ask the emperor. Are you hungry? If you are hungry, I will invite you to eat for supper. How could Zheng Yi, who just had a celebration feast, be hungry? But this is Yi Yang's rare initiative. How could he give up like this? Nod, I'm hungry. So, Zheng Yi, who ate a bowl of beef noodles, had no accident. And the consequence of eating was to hold Yi Yang and change his posture to digest the food in his stomach.